Alright guys, so today we are going to be continuing our journey with circles. Today is going to be all about finding arc measures. In order to get into that, we first have to go over some definitions. So I have them all listed out here. I'm going to read through them, but of course if you need to, please pause the video so you can copy these down. So first we have a central angle. So this is going to be an angle where the vertex is the center of a circle. So remember that center dot that we talked about last class, our angle is actually going to be inside the circle. A minor arc, so to define an angle that kind of defines minor arc, it says if an angle measure is less than 180 degrees, then it forms a minor arc. And then on the flip side, a major arc is an angle measure greater than 180 degrees, and it is not in the minor arc, so it is two separate things. A semicircle we should be semi-familiar with. So this is an arc with endpoints that are actually the endpoints of a diameter, and this has a measure of 180 degrees. The measure of a minor arc would be the measure of a central angle, so kind of one and the same there. And the measure of a major arc is going to be doing 360 minus the measure of the minor arc. And then the last thing we have is adjacent arcs. So adjacent we've talked about before, that just means two things right next to each other sharing a side or a point. And so in this case, it's two arcs in the same circle that intersect at exactly one point. So they touch at a point on the outside edge of the circle. They share that. They have that in common. So like I said, if you need to, please pause the video, copy down these definitions because you're kind of going to use these as we go through the notes today. But let's go ahead and just get into a quick example of kind of finding these angle measures or arc measures. So for this first one, it says find the measure of each arc of circle P where RT is a diameter. So first they want us to find arc RS. So arc RS is going to be right here. And so the measurement of that arc is going to be the same measurement of this angle, which they told us is 110. So RS is 110 degrees. Okay. Next, we need to find RTS. So R to T to S. So something that wasn't mentioned above is that major arcs are labeled with 3 points, and minor arcs are labeled with only 2 points. So this is a major arc. So even though we don't know any of those angles that were just listed, we do know that this minor arc here was 110, and the full measurement of a circle is 360 degrees. So we will do 360 minus 110, and that is going to give us 250. So that whole arc from R to T to S is 250 degrees. And last but not least, we have RST. So R to S to T. They did tell us up here that RT is a diameter, and according to our vocab above, a diameter and a semicircle are kind of one and the same, and they have a measure of 180 degrees. So RST is 180 degrees. While I'm here, let's see, I'm going to put, labeled with 2 points and labeled with 3 points. Something good to take note of. All right, the next thing we talk about is the arc addition postulates. So this is the measure of an arc formed by two adjacent arcs is the sum of the measures of the two arcs. So if we know the measure of one arc and it happens to be adjacent to another arc and we are trying to find that whole piece together, we would just add them together. This is kind of similar to, what else have we done? We've done the angle addition postulate, we've done the line segment addition postulate, all kind of the same. So if two things are next to each other, you just add them together to get the whole piece, right? So for instance, this first one, we need GE. So G all the way around to E. So we know that this little piece is 40 and this piece is 80. So to get GE, we just have to add those together and we get 120. GEF, G to E to F. So again, we just have to add all of those pieces together. Now, we did know already that G to E was 120. We just figured that out on the last one. So we absolutely could have just done 120 plus 110 to give us our 230. But I just wrote it up a long way so you can see where all of those pieces are coming from. And then we have G to F. So this one we don't know anything about. We don't have this little inside angle here. But we do know that G to E to F, this other half of the circle, we know that that was 230. We just figured that out in our previous part. So we can just do 360, that whole circle, minus the 230 of that GEF, and get 130. So sometimes with these, it takes doing a couple parts in order to get the whole piece, but it's all just using the knowledge you have of circles and taking that as your advantage to solve these problems. All right, and another one, this one they just kind of put it as like a pie chart a little bit. It says, a recent survey asked teenagers whether they would rather meet a famous musician, athlete, actor, inventor, or other person. The circle graph shows the results. Find the indicated arc measures. So this is very similar to what we were just doing, just kind of put into like a real life situation. When these problems come up, you'll see that little m. Remember, that just means the measure of. So we are trying to find the measure of arc AC. So A to C. Remember, if there's only 2 points, it's a minor arc. That means it has to be less than 180. So that's why I went this way as opposed to going down and to the right and up to C, because that's obviously going to be more than 180. So we just do, not 180, 108 plus 29, and that gives us 137. ACD, so A to C to D. So again, we knew that A to C was 137. And then we just add that distance from C to D of 83. And that gives us 220. So now a little bit of a flip. We go A to D to C. So this one is a little bit different. So A to E was 79, E to D was 61, and D to C was 83. So we just add all those pieces together, and we get 223. You also could have, since we know the arc measure of AC, you could have done 360 minus the arc of AC to get that remaining piece. Both ways would still get you the same answer. And last but not least, E to B, all around to D. So notice that the only piece we're missing is this guy. That's the only bit that we don't need in our measurement. So instead of adding up all the pieces, I'm going to do 360 minus that piece of 61 that we don't need to account for. And that's going to give us 299. And last piece, this one, not only do you have to find the measures, but we also need to identify if we have a major arc, minor arc, or a semicircle. So first thing I'm going to do here, I notice that when I look over at my circle, we only have this one angle that's unaccounted for, that we have not figured out what that measurement is. So I think just to try and make my life a little bit easier for these other questions, I'm going to figure out what that is. So all of these pieces added together give us 260. So 120 plus 80 plus 60 equals 260. So to find this piece, I would just have to do 360 minus 260, and that gives me 100 degrees. So now that I know that piece, I feel like it's just going to make my life a little bit easier when I go to find these measurements. So the first one we need is TQ. So TQ right here up top. So that's going to be 120 degrees. 120 degrees is a minor arc because it is less than 180. Q to R to T. So Q to R around a T. Notice the only piece we're missing in that measurement is this 120. So we can just do 360 minus 120, and that gives us 240. 240 is going to be a major arc because it is greater than 180. T to Q to R, well, that's 120 plus 60, which gives us 180. And 180 is a semicircle. Q and around to S. Again, remember it's 2 points. That means that it has to be minor without even figuring out the measurement. The fact that it's only 2 points means that it has to be minor. So we can go ahead and say minor, and then it's going to be 100 plus 60, so it's going to be 160 degrees. T to S, that one's easy, it's just this little piece, so that's going to be minor, and it's going to be 80 degrees. And last but not least, R to S to T. Well, that one's also going to be a semicircle at 180 degrees. All right, and that completes our notes for today.